In the 1960s, a professor of ancient Indian history at Magad University established a controlled environment to investigate human bilocation. A graduate student was positioned inside a locked room to verify that the subject remained in a seated meditation posture. Simultaneously, 10 miles away, the professor recorded a face-to-face conversation with that same subject in his university office. The subject was Nani Bala Barua, known as Deepama. She was a householder from Calcutta trained by the meditation master Anigarika Munindra. Munindra's objective was to determine if the psychic powers, or abhinyas, described in ancient Buddhist texts, could survive modern scrutiny. Testing moved into temporal projection. Munindra tasked Deepama with auditing a month in advance the acceptance speech of Burmese diplomat U Thant. She provided a complete transcription. When U Thant eventually addressed the United Nations General Assembly, his words matched her prior recording exactly. Other systematic tests followed. Munindra observed Deepama resolving the air element into solid earth to sit suspended in the sky, and generating thermodynamic fire from her hands to cook meals without external heat. For Munindra and his colleagues, these results indicated that the concentration-based states detailed in the Pali Canon remained accessible and replicable in the 20th century. Analytically, this raises a mechanical question. How does a practitioner systematically bypass conventional physical and temporal constraints? The operational details are found in the Visuddhimagga, or the Path of Purification, compiled in the 5th century by the scholar Buddhaghosa. This text functions as a granular cognitive engineering manual. It outlines the Chalabhinya, 6 supernormal knowledges. They are divided into 2 categories: 5 mundane powers, known as Lokya, and a single supermundane knowledge, Lokutara. The mundane powers consist of physical elemental manipulation, clairaudience, telepathic mind reading, retrocognitive past life recall, and clairvoyant vision of the future. Replicating Deepama's results requires the strict execution of the algorithmic sequence defined within this manual. The protocol begins with Sila, or flawless ethical integrity. In this system, ethics function as a stabilization mechanism. A mind carrying the dissonance of guilt or agitation cannot maintain the internal pressure required for deep absorption. The practitioner initiates a total restraint of the sensory faculties, noting every physical input without allowing the mind to trigger its habitual responses of desire or aversion. This lockdown of sensory reaction deactivates the standard hindrances of human cognition. The mind stabilizes into a neural baseline called Upachara Samadhi, or access concentration. Now, step 2 utilizes the Kasina engine. To manipulate the physical matrix, the mind must develop element-specific concentration. The training sequence begins with the earth kasina. The practitioner constructs a flawless reddish-brown clay disc, ensuring the surface is free of any textural imperfections. The meditator stares at the physical disc, focusing solely on the concept of earth to generate the preliminary mental sign, the parikama nimitta. Through repeated open and closed-eyed visualization, the practitioner internalizes a retinal image of the clay. This is the agaha nimitta, where the mental image becomes as clear as the physical object. At a specific threshold of concentration, the image undergoes a phase shift into the patibhaga nimitta. It sheds its physical characteristics, becoming a hyperluminous, abstract orb of light. Locking the attention onto this abstract conceptual orb forces consciousness into the 4th rupa jhana. This state is defined by absolute equanimity and single-pointedness. Concentration is so intense that normal bodily functions essentially suspend. The adept has now detached consciousness from the physical sensory hardware, anchoring their reality entirely within a pure mental construct. Static concentration is insufficient without cognitive agility. Step 4 requires the master of 14-way mental control. The practitioner trains to skip between different jhanas and alternate elemental kasinas at high speed. Deepa Ma referred to this rapid mental maneuvering as playing. This flowchart details the aditana, or execution loop. It is the sequence used to modify physical reality. First, the adept enters the fourth jhana using a specific element as the base, for example, utilizing the space kasina to pass through a wall. The adept then emerges back into access concentration to formulate the aditana, a precise cognitive command, such as "let there be space." They immediately re-enter the fourth jhana, empowering that command with the full weight of their concentration. Upon a final emergence from the absorption, the supernormal power manifests in the physical world. The Visuddhimagga treats a Siddhi as a perfectly sequenced cognitive command, executing a temporary override on the laws of physics. By 1967, Deepa Ma possessed total mastery over these elemental overrides. Yet she made the decision to deactivate and relinquish these abilities entirely. This was a calculated response to the risk of ahamkara, or egoic inflation. In the Theravada view, exercising godlike abilities often tricks the mind into reinforcing the illusion of a permanent self that wields that power. This creates a boundary between the mundane powers, which are products of concentration, and the supramundane goal of asavakayanyana, the destruction of the mental defilements. This sixth knowledge requires vipassana, or penetrating insight, rather than concentration alone. Vipassana disrupts the singular focal point of the jhanic structure, deconstructing the sense of a self and altering the practitioner's perception of reality. The Visuddhimagga prioritizes the eradication of suffering over the temporary manipulation of physical elements. In this framework, the final and most difficult achievement is the internal realization of liberation.